Steel Revolution. Revolution. From America's heartland and the banks of the mighty Mississippi, this is Steel Revolution. Revolution.
All right. Welcome to Steel Megaphone number 18. Do another intro to the show, and then you can kind of pipe it into the other intro. So, welcome to Steel Revolution number 18. Had Steel Megaphone on the brain and accidentally said that the first time. So, welcome to Steel Revolution number 18. And Sean, don't cut out the original opening.
I won't.
All right, there you go. What do you do when you're 18? I mean, the last time it was 16. So you say, smoke them if you got them.
Yeah.
Yeah. We were able to go to smoke them if you got them, but if you do, try to quit.
Go to the strip club at 18.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
All right. My name is Roy Hutt.
And I'm Mike Nicholas.
Sean,
Hi.
anything?
Nope.
Nothing?
Nothing?
Not a thing, buddy.
No. Okay.
Good time oldies, 101.3 Cool FM with the Bee Gees, and I started a joke, and speaking of jokes, two guys walk into a bar, the third one ducks. Maybe not.
I like how you've carried the same humor throughout the years, because it's about the same now as it was back then.
It's all fun and
If you guys could only see Sean's face right now.
it's all right. That's a good joke.
We previewed it this morning, Sean. We thought it should be
We
on the
had to
show.
get just the right one, and that one was the best.
God, that's all good.
Okay. Anyway,
All right, moving on to Local 105 news. Our Women of Steel are going to receive a Jefferson Award for their charity work. I'm looking for help today, Mike. So this
You're
is
not gonna
like
get
where
it right
you try
here.
to get some more words in than 54 this time.
remember it was 57, but
Okay.
I'm working on it.
Congratulations to those ladies or women and all the fine work that they do. Our charity golf tournament will be
June 3rd.
June 3rd. And looks like we're running up to the end of the registration was today. So you can probably sneak one in if you still want to.
Do we still have room for teams?
I believe we do.
Okay.
The proxy news, you might see some pictures going out in the plant of your bargaining committee wearing white shirts, and that's in support of the white proxy for the current board at Arconic. Our current board has invested quite a bit of money in our plant, somewhere to the tune of $149 million between the automotive sheet expansion and the thick plate stretcher. Another 90 in Lafayette, another 300 for Tennessee. So they continue to invest in the workforce, showing their confidence in the workers here. So our support is with the current board and the white proxy. And in case you haven't noticed, or in case you missed it, the USW came out with another letter just the other day, May 3rd. And Elliott, if you dig into some of their past, they have, for example, they purchased stake in Syntrex Systems, a software company. They demanded them sell assets to cut costs. Syntrex laid off 900 employees January of 15 and another 1,000 in November of 15. So you got to ask yourself, is that what's going to come out here? They also, let's see, Symantec Corp. What, Mike?
Closer to the mic, Roy.
Okay.
There you go. Much better.
Oh, is that better?
That's much better.
That sounds better in my headphones too. I think it's because Sean was playing with the knobs, and now see it sounds completely different in my
I would
headphones.
say we
now
were
again.
both losing you. So
So, all right. I'm sure through the miracle of Sean's editing, I'll sound great.
Oh! Now you let me edit.
Anyway, back to Symantec Corp that Elliott purchased stake in. Subsequently, after they purchased them, they had to sell assets, paid shareholders, and announce that it would cut about 10% of its workforce in some facilities. Elliott Management, their CEO, Larry Lawson, former CEO of Spirit Aerosystems, vice president at Lockheed Martin, and was over the F-35 program, which, if anybody was up on that, F-35 program was plagued by cost, schedule, and performance problems. Let's see here.
And that's just one example.
Oh,
There's several more.
Here's another good one. Elliott Bose, of the Valuable Experience nominee, Patrice Marin, as a director of Glencore, which Glencore owned Sherwin Aluminum, which was involved in a lockout with the steel workers at a facility in Corpus Christi and later laid off people, and steel workers have lots of issues with Glencore.
Absolutely.
So lots of this stuff, and lots of the stuff that we talk about today will be on Brad Greaves' website, or in other words, our local's website, which is Brad Greaves' baby, and he likes to update that and doing a good job with that. So
yes, he is.
A lot of that stuff you can find there. If you don't find it in the Forerunner, if you don't hear it from here. USW News, we haven't had a show since the conference. Message from the conference was the power of unity. And what I believe, we've got lots of stuff I know on the website. We've covered it at business meetings. So I believe what we'll do throughout the show here is inject bits and pieces of some audio from there, and then if you want to hear the rest, you can either go to the website, go to the Steelworkers YouTube channel to pull up more of that.
Yeah, go look at the videos. They're all really good.
So a couple of them I think we'll try to put in here. President Leo Gerard's, International President Leo Gerard's opening address, and then Reverend Barber's, which I think would come in pretty good at probably the end of this show.
I believe this is the fourth opportunity I've had to address you as your president, and each one of them has been a humbling experience. I'm humbled, first of all, that you've given me another chance to be the leader of the greatest union on earth. And since I don't often get the chance to speak to all of you like this, I want you to know exactly how I feel about things. The good, the bad, and the ugly. Because there are plenty of good things that make me proud to be leading our union. But frankly, there's plenty going on in Washington and Ottawa that is flat out bad, ugly, and really pisses me off. So I'm going to let it all hang out today, because the challenges that our union is facing are far too great. First of all, as you just saw by the previous video, we should be proud of who we are, because it took a long time to bring this union into existence, over 75 years. But you know what? Lots of the unions that have merged with us in the last years have had a legacy much longer than 75 years, and we ought to pay tribute to them, all of those unions that have merged with us. The most recent one is the GMP, Glass Molders and Potters Union, and I think there's about 200 observers sitting right over there. Let's give them a big hand. Their president is up here on the stage with Bruce. Stand up, Bruce. There's their president, Bruce Smith. Brothers and sisters, our founders risked everything in their fight to win the rights that we all enjoy today. And they did it against unbelievable odds. They battled hired scabs and thugs. They stood down the National Guardsmen who were hell-bent on breaking their strikes. Some of us may have forgotten, or some of us may not even know. They even stood down against cops who shot them dead on their picket lines on more than one occasion. And yet, in spite of all of that, they prevailed. Their power, as ours still is the greatest power ever known. The power of our unity, the power of our activism, the power of our standing strong and fighting back, shoulder to shoulder, militant if necessary, the power of men and women who believe that no matter what the risks we face, the power of our unity is that we've got each other's backs. Steel workers, paper workers, rubber workers, mine workers, oil workers, telecommunication workers, glass workers, healthcare workers, adjunct professors, aluminum workers, nurses, office employees, members who work in government, repairing roads, cleaning parks, protecting abused children, and ensuring public safety. We're a union that is proud of the product of many diverse and proud unions, coming together in unity to form a great and strong union. All of us, the same at heart, dedicated, as our founders were, to the belief that every person deserves to be treated with dignity and respect, and to be able to support their families at a living standard, at a living wage. It allows them to hold their head high when they're in the community, allows them to feel that they're proud steelworker members. So let's pay a loud and strong tribute to all of those who risked it all to give us and our families a better life. Let's hear it for those who are long gone, who founded our union, but we will never be forgotten. We should never forget those that gave us this great union. We'd never forget those that took it on the chin. Never forget those that were arrested and beat by cops. Don't forget those who stood with us in our darkest days. It would be great to think that all our problems were solved when we won the right to bargain collectively in our two countries. Sure, we've been able to bargain better wages and improve health and safety conditions, and in many cases, better living standards. In fact, let it be known that our union helped build the middle class. Let it be known that without the labor movement, there would be no middle class. And those that attack labor are attacking the ability of people to sustain their families and deserve to get an ass whooping. But you know what, sisters and brothers? You know what? As much as we've struggled to create better lives for people, we've still got pension stealing, healthcare shrinking, pocket picking, latte drinking, Gucci shoes, Lexus driving, stock option trading, Wall Street and Bay Street bastards who are trying to export every one of our jobs, and we're not going to let them, are we? And yes, we'll keep fighting. We'll keep fighting for better and first-rate benefits, but we've still got too many employers who are trying to dump the runaway cost of health care on us at every opportunity, at every bargaining table. And again, sisters and brothers, we need to resist that direction. We need to stand up and fight back about that. You know, we've still got CEOs who sneer at our demand to put an end to the hazards in the workplace. Instead, they focus on their next yearly bonus or their stock options. But here's the good news, sisters and brothers. We've still got something that keeps us strong. We've got our solidarity and the power of our unity, and they can never take that away from us.
All right, so going on to local news, Davenport has a construction project for Rockingham Road in which they did not go with the lowest bidder, which was Brandt Construction. And we all know from previous shows, Brandt Construction is plagued with safety issues, having enough people on the job.
Unfair treatment,
and I believe pay issues,
yep.
Scheduling issues that have problems like they did in downtown Rock Island, which was a big delay. So Davenport decided they don't want anything to do with that. Went for I believe the second lowest bidder.
They did.
So, and which I saw got, I think Brandt disputed it, and it got cleared up that Davenport still has the okay to use. I think it was Langman Construction.
Yep.
So, good news there. Also, Farmington has also said that they will not use the town of Farmington also said they will not use Brandt Construction. So the guys at the Quad City Coalition for Workers' Justice doing good things, seeing some results there. Also, local news, we had a few steel workers decided to go up to the meeting for Costco. And what we found out up there that I think is of a labor value is that the Costco store that's projected to go into Davenport would see about 175 to 200 jobs at a starting wage of $13.50 an hour. Cashiers within 5 years can make about, or roughly somewhere around the ballpark of $50,000 a year with good benefits. I asked the guys from Costco if they'd be looking at local contractors, and they said that they will have they have their own general that does their stores, but then all the other bids for the construction goes up for local bids. So
That's awesome.
Good that they're not going to turn their back on the community that's going to support them and use local labor to build that store and do the work around there to get it ready. Staff Rep Jeff Hartford was also there. He asked if they were looking for any TIF money or any money from the city, in which they said no, they're not looking for any money there.
That's huge.
Good all the way around. Of course, some neighbors are concerned about traffic, but I think at that point, after thinking about it more today, something is going to go there. That's going to be rezoned at some point in time, most likely, just because of the fact of where it's at.
Yep.
So do you want to delay it now and quite possibly get something in there that is not going to pay good, going to want money from the city, or do you just say, hey, something's going to happen there. Let's
make the change.
Yeah, let's make the change with an employer that is looking out for its employees. And what I believe, this community, they did not have to have their meeting with the community yesterday at all. So, some good news there. So we can put that in. The corporations are coming, and that's a good one there.
Absolutely.
Moving on to some Iowa news. Pulled up a article from Progress Iowa of the 11 ways that Brain Dead has failed Iowa before he leaves for his job working for Trump as the ambassador to China. The number one, I'll try to keep it to stuff that we believe impacts us or our families. Underfunding of schools, that's both the high schools and up or higher education. That still hasn't fixed. They think they were going to fix the funding, but because of the budget shortage, which is also caused by Brain Dead, that they're not going to get around to fixing the budget. There's a healthcare debacle, the Medicaid privatization that they've had, which we've had numerous guests on. You got companies that provide these services that are not getting paid, all due to the governor's privatization and taking it away from the state. And then that, of course, they got to go out of business and they can't pay their workers. Stripping away workers' rights, which we know was the Chapter 20, so collective bargaining of public employees, what they can and can't do, what they can and can't bargain over. Also, the work comp law, making that more corporate friendly. Lower wages. Another thing, governor and the state sat on their hands, would not up the minimum wage for the state, so local counties did. They, of course, reduced that because that wasn't right. Iowa's last in mental health. And let's see, economy falling behind. They ranked 36th among states. The budget mess. There's a big budget shortfall that wasn't there before Brain Dead took over. And Iowa farm values are falling. They've fell over the last 3 years. They fell. What I find odd is the tax. We're going to cut taxes for people. We're going to cut taxes for corporations, and then we don't have any tax money, so now we can't fund schools and we can't do other things. So,
But looking at this list, this is something you expect in a third world country, not here. This is crazy.
Well, yeah, like I was mentioning earlier about something else. It's like you got Wisconsin, you got Illinois, you got Kansas, and then you got Iowa saying, "Hold my beer.
Yep. Watch this.
We're gonna drive this state into the ground better
Yep.
than you guys can."
Yep.
Meanwhile, you got Minnesota that raised taxes and is a big economic boom. It's the best place for business, but nobody wants to follow that model. Also looked up some of the biggest tax giveaways for companies, and we'll go over the top few here. Rockwell Collins, who has a tax credit claim amount for the state of Iowa of $12 million, little over $12 million. DuPont, about $7.5 million. Deere and Company, who you would think they'd make enough money, has two claims, one for farm equipment, that's about $7.5 million, another one for construction and forestry, that's a little over $2.5 million. Monsanto, a little over $1.25 million. Hahn, which we know could pay their people
Absolutely.
better, $1.5 million. So that's of the local interest there, and there's more that but those were the big heavy hitters. Now they had a preview of what the new Lieutenant Governor Reynolds, what would be on her agenda going into, whenever she takes over. She wants to work on water quality. Hopefully she's sincere in that, so we don't have a Flint episode down here. Tax reform. If it wasn't enough, and we don't know we're not going to have taxes, we're going to tax reform, and instead of 9, I believe what her plan is, instead of 9 tax brackets are going to go down to 3. Which, I'll be honest, I had to pay the state taxes, and I would feel like I could receive some money back since you got $12 million to give Rockwell Collins.
Uh-huh.
Also, they're going to look into the Iowa Public Employees Retirement System, or IPERS, so hold on close. You may have your retirement if you're there now, according to what she said, that they're not looking at anything old but new.
Going forward.
You might not have it, or it's going to look drastically different, which makes the new news that Nate Bolton decided yesterday to run for governor. And if you don't know who he is, we will play a clip of his campaign ad. He is the son of a steelworker, and he has come out in strong opposition of any of the bills that go against working people or working families in Iowa. So it's a breath of fresh air, and wish nothing but Nate the best, and for sure has my vote, so we'll be working hard to see him get elected. So take a break right here, and we'll play some audio from Nate.
I'm Nate Bolton. I grew up in a proud union family in small-town Iowa, so I can't sit by while Republicans attack working Iowans. That's why, on behalf of Iowa's public workers, we took Branstad and Reynolds to court and beat them twice. Now, together with Trump, they're threatening what we value most as Iowans. I'm running for governor to fight back. This legislation threatens some of the things we value most as Iowans. Strong public education, dignity in your work. We stand with you, and we will not let this go unchallenged.
Senator Nate Bolton introduced an amendment to go all the way back to the drawing board.
Democratic Senator Nate Bolton.
Senator Bolton isn't ready to give up.
We need an Iowa that works for everyone. To put our public schools back on top, reward hard work, protect our natural resources, and rebuild our rural economy. From my hometown of Columbus Junction and hometowns across Iowa, big and small, I'm a runner. I've finished dozens of marathons, but I can't run this one alone. Together we can build a better future for Iowa. I won't stop until we do.
Back after the break.
Nice break.
I always want to say, by the way, I forgot talking with the convention, got to meet Troy Cook, and yeah, that was great. Hear the things that they do around organizing and strikes and lockouts and bargaining and using their podcast was great.
But I heard what's bigger out of that whole meeting was you got to see all the moths fly out of Brad's wallet.
Yeah. Yeah.
During that meeting. That's not often you see that.
So like last time he was out there, he opened the wallet, in the
jewelry store.
Yeah, in the jewelry store. So about shut down, the shopping area there.
Yep.
And then this time at the Bellagio, there was a roof fire.
Coincidence?
I don't know. I don't think so. What?
Thanks, Sean.
I thought you were going to add something with that.
No.
Thanks, appreciate it.
So moving on, we'll talk about the National Comp Time Bill, which seeks to give families the flexibility to have more time off.
Yeah, let's talk about that. They call it the Working Families Flexibility Act. What a line of horse shit.
Which, I'm going to interrupt you before we get too far. So Miss Roby, and I don't have her first name, the one that introduced the bill.
Yep.
And I saw her clip, and she said she knows better than ever because she was a working mom, and she knew that that could really help her out. Sorry, you were a lawyer, and don't think that you were going to use it. I just don't see the lawyers needing comp time or getting overtime pay.
No.
Yeah, Yep, you worked without a doubt. I just don't think you would have used the comp time.
You would
like
not
you
have
said
qualified that way.
Right.
I don't get it. It's caused. I mean, people are on both sides of the fence on this one, but the bottom line is, the company has the right to say when you can use that comp time.
Right. This is, to me, you're going to kick the door open to changes to the Fair Labor Standards Act, which is from 1938 that was fought for. You got this. Now let's try to weaken it. And like you said, company has the right to do it. So you are potentially giving the company a loan.
Interest-free.
Yeah, interest-free on your work, in which the company has total control over that loan. When you get paid, almost, when you use it.
If you use it.
If you go over 80 hours, the company can then dictate whatever you got banked over 80 hours, what happens with it. So try to look at... I got to looking at it, and so, I want to see, what the real pros and cons were. And the way I see this is, one, eventually it's going to be used against you having vacation or your wages. Something's going to happen that if they put this in, our company, it doesn't apply to us. We got a collective bargaining agreement. It says it right in the law. It doesn't apply to you if you got a collective bargaining agreement. But what happens 4 years, 8 years down the road, and the company said, we can't compete with these guys because they're doing this comp time thing.
Well, I was reading last night, all the Republicans that voted for it, that are in support of it, talk about how this is the employee's choice. The employees have a choice. The only choice they have is whether or not they want to take overtime pay or bank it for comp time. Everything else is the employer's choice. All the employer's choice.
Right, and if you look at probably most of the public sector facilities, what's going to happen? I got people off on vacation. Mike, you can't take your comp time. So then after a while, if you want to use comp time and you want to have that, let's give you less vacation time.
Yep.
So then you essentially are paying for your own vacation.
That's right.
In which I saw, and I did see a person argue like how my wife gets her vacation, every day or every so many hours you get. Yeah. That's still set aside from any overtime you would get if you would get overtime. So essentially what I see it is, eventually you're going to be paying for your own time off because they're going to do away with your vacation, and then you will be using this comp time if you can, if they let you, and you're essentially paying for your own vacation. It's not going to be a benefit.
Well, let's just hope it doesn't even make it out of the Senate committee.
we can only hope. And furthermore, I was looking, and I don't believe I have... Nope, don't have the paper. Anyway, in the actual Fair Labor Standards Act now, there is a provision that gives the employer the opportunity to give you unpaid time off based on the amount of overtime that you work.
Correct.
Basically, having your cake and eat it too, let's say.
Yep.
You're going to work your overtime, you're going to get paid for the overtime when you work it, and then based on however much you work, the company can give you unpaid leave. That gives you the best. So if you really want to do something for working families, you don't have to. It's already in there. You could mandate something that people have to have some sort of a unpaid leave process. Hey, that works out better for everybody. But they won't do that because it's not going to help the corporations.
Or like we were talking yesterday, you get hurt at work. Oh, now here you can use your comp time. We're going to go ahead and use that towards your, instead of giving you work comp. You've earned comp time, that's what we're going to give you.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be a way for them, and especially, I guess, if you go over the 80, I'm looking at the bill. If you go over the 80s, okay, well, you're gonna take time off because you're sick. Well, now you got to use this time too. You're gonna use FMLA if you need it. Well, now we're going to take that too. You know, it's not going to be good for you, and it's not going to work out in our situation either because they're not going to hire more people.
Nope.
To give you the ability to take your comp time, so it's going to be hard for them to let you off.
I find it hard to see where it benefits any employees right now.
Yep. Moving on to the healthcare bill that got passed. Looking at the rapid response email that the new AHCA will still strip 24 million people of their coverage, allow for discrimination based on pre-existing conditions, which they turn over to the states. And if you're a state, you're going to say no, especially if you're a Republican, because you say we'll attract more business. I'm guessing.
That's exactly what it is.
Waives the regulations requiring insurers to cover essential health care benefits, so maternity care, substance abuse treatment, hospitalization. Also eliminates taxes for corporations and the wealthiest people. Meanwhile, because Trump cared so much about the unions, still keeps the Cadillac tax, the one thing people wanted thrown out for sure.
He'll keep it.
Did not get thrown out. So again, you gotta watch your Trump for every good thing he may say or do, or maybe tries to do. I don't think there's a whole lot of. He's said a lot. He's signed a lot of stuff. Don't think we've seen a whole lot of. What do I want to say? We haven't seen a whole lot of proof, or haven't seen a whole lot of evidence on what it's actually done for working people. There's the Buy American, is it Build American, Buy American?
Yes.
That he signed executive order. So again, sounds good. We'll see what happens. Is it the same as his pipeline? Is it the same as the pipeline bill that he did, which is only new pipelines going forward, and our two biggest ones that we had go in were made with, at best, part American-made steel.
Part American, or his clothing line.
Yeah. Or he did sign send the trade. What did he do, Mike? Help me out here. To look into steel, for Chinese steel. He signed.
It's aluminum steel.
Well, aluminum.
Aluminum.
There's stuff that's going on with aluminum. I think it's a trade. Some sort of a trade case. There's another one for steel, that Leo Gerard was there for the signing of that, to look into to steel and the effects of, I believe, China steel.
Yep.
So I mean, they, like I said, though, one step forward, two steps back. I mean, it's obvious with this stuff he's doing. Let's see, we also have other news that former President Obama is getting about $400,000 to give speeches to Wall Street. Don't really think... I was a little perplexed perplexed, I guess, with this. Can you blame them for making a living?
No.
No. Does this really help the Democrats come next time?
No.
No.
Not at all.
Not if you want more. And, here he is in a quote, "I did not run for office to be helping out a bunch of fat cat bankers from Wall Street." But I guess he's helping himself, I guess, now.
Yeah.
With their money. But just don't, when you have an image problem like it seems like you do, especially in the last election, I just don't think that helps. Moving on to Arizona, the Arizona House Majority Leader, John Allen, who believes that, I guess if teachers aren't making enough money, they can just get a second job. And it goes on to further pretty much cite that the only reason why teachers have second jobs is because they want to buy boats or better houses.
Yep.
That they should just be happy.
He's a moron.
Meanwhile, Arizona has a teacher shortage. Imagine that.
Yep.
The same thing that Iowa's on the way to, since I have heard from people that teachers in their kids' schools, 2 of them's going to Minnesota, in which Minnesota flat out said they were going to poach teachers from Iowa right after the.
And it's not going to be hard to do it.
Nope. Jeez. Looks like that's about all.
Man, we got through all that.
Yeah. We'll fill in plenty of time with audio from the convention and some other stuff and whatever magic Sean works.
So then what do we got left?
Douche of the show. I'd say one thing. Let's set aside Radio Gold of the show, which would be Sean Geison's.
Sean's air checks?
Yep. The special audio from Sean, which is
I'm
Radio
sure
Gold at the beginning.
We'll get some extra tons of listeners from that.
Yep. For sure.
We just got to make sure we have 3 subscribers at least.
Yep. So, douche of the show. Let's see, we'll not going to include that. We got things happening in Iowa. And the comp time bill. So you could go with either parts of Congress, the House and the Senate, for the bills they passed, because the Senate passed the Senate passed the comp time, and the House passed the comp time. Senate passed the Senate?
I'm not sure how that works.
Both went, or did both go through the House? I thought one was one and one was the other.
They both went through the House.
They both went through the House.
Both went through the House.
Oh.
I say we, my vote would be for the 2 sponsors of the comp time bill. The 2 morons, the one from Alabama and the one from Utah.
All right. And Fox is on that as being part of that. So,
I agree.
She is a nasty lady.
Yes.
Nasty.
Absolutely.
All right. Douche of the show would be the sponsors of the comp time bill, in which we've found out through our due diligence that they really don't need to do nothing. They can do the ultimate right thing if they just use what's in the law right now.
Yep.
All right.
Thanks for listening to number 18.
Yep.
See ya.
Hello to United Steelworkers. Now, both of my brother-in-laws are members of United Steelworkers. So I don't know if that gives me any credibility or not, but they told me to tell you all that. They are members of United Steelworkers in a plant that you all unionized some time ago down in North Carolina, in a place that's not all that friendly to the labor movement. I'm glad to be here with you, all of you. And President Gerard, I've been thinking about this. We must have some real issues right now in the nation for a preacher to be in Las Vegas during Holy Week. to my friend Fred Redmond, and to our president, Leo Gerard. We thank God for him and the complete staff and all of the persons who make up your leadership. To Tom Perez, who was just here and has been a friend down through the years. We were reminding each other that he and I had marched together 2 weeks before the killings at Mother Emanuel in South Carolina. We had marched together in Columbia, Maryland, for justice and during the King holidays. Yesterday, April the 9th, was the burial date of Dr. King in 1968. He had been shot, assassinated at the Lorraine Hotel at 6:01, April 4th, 1 year exact to the date that he had preached at Riverside Church in New York and declared that we had to take on the issue of racism, poverty, and militarism. I was just there leading a march the other day. Went to the balcony, went to the room, looked at the place from which the shot came. Nearly 49 years ago, Dr. King was in Memphis standing for union rights, for workers' rights. He was organizing black workers and Latino workers and white workers. He went to Memphis. People told him not to go, said those workers were just garbage workers. But Dr. King said, if I don't go, the issue is not what will happen to me, but what will happen to them. He was raising this question all across the country. Where do we go from here? Chaos or community? I want to suggest to you one day after the anniversary of his burial date that this question is relevant again, especially after November the 8th election, because I'm sure that many of you said the same thing that Jesus said during Holy Week, according to the Gospel of Matthew, when nearly 2,000 years ago he saw a fig tree that had no figs, had leaves but no figs. And Jesus said, I'm coming back, and when I come back, I expect you to have figs, because a fig tree shouldn't have leaves without having figs. And the fig tree represented the brokenness of the nation. And when he came back, the fig tree had no figs. And Jesus said one word that some of you said on November the 9th. Jesus said, damn. What is going on? How did we get here? And I believe we must have an honest analysis of how we got here and how people are running a game on us. Not an analysis from a Democratic perspective or a Republican perspective, but just some honest analysis. One of the ways we got here is what I call runaway money. The corporate media gave Donald Trump more than $1 billion of free media, which helped to legitimize him in the minds of some and allow him to take his extreme policies mainstream. But the corporate media continues in many ways to drive often a narrative that's not connected to what's really going on in the streets. Runaway money got us here. Citizens United got us here. That anti-people, anti-worker law that treats corporations like people and people like things. That law that was upheld by the Supreme Court In fact, it was born through an unholy backroom intercourse between some members of the Supreme Court and big business. And that bill, that law, Citizens United, helped get us here. Did you know that in 2012, because of Citizens United, the Koch brothers were allowed to contribute $400 million of their own money to electoral politics? Everybody in here that could contribute $400 million of your own money, raise your hand. That's what I thought. No matter whether you black, whether you white, whether you Latino, there's not one person in here. But because of Citizens United, the Koch brothers could contribute $400 million of their own money, 10 times more than all of the largest union contributions combined. You don't give that kind of money unless you want something. And they have been ardent opponents of labor rights and union rights. How did we get here? We also got here not only because of runaway money, we got here, Brother Leo, because of racist methods that are as American as apple pie. Retrogression that we have seen in America time and time after again, a season of racial progress. Now, I like to talk about issues of race and racism because I'm white. Yeah, and I'm black, and I'm Tuscaroran Indian. I have members of my family who are as blue-eyed as any white person in here. I have members who are as dark as West Virginia coal, and I have grandmothers, great-grandmothers, who were Tuscaroran Indians in eastern North Carolina. You cannot really deal with America without talking about race and class. Neil Painter, a Princeton scholar, said that what we've seen in this last election was call and response. Said you have the call of progress along race, and then you have the response of retrogression along the issues of race. And she says to us, we've seen it before, and whether we want to face it or not, we have to if we're going to deal with how did we get here. This is not new in America. I've heard people say, my God, we've never seen anything like this. We've never seen somebody lose the popular vote but win it. Yes, we have. 1877, after 12 years of progress, 12 years of progress post the Civil War, post slavery, 12 years of progress where black and white people were working together in the South to transform the South. 12 years of progress where black workers and white workers were forming unions in the South in places like New Orleans. A group of people decided that that was too much working together. And so there was a president in 1877 who lost, he was the candidate for president, he lost the popular vote, but he was selected by the Electoral College if he would promise to cut taxes on the wealthy, if he would promise to roll back the civil rights, if he would promise to undermine the Knights of Labor and their desire to unionize the South, and if he would give them the Supreme Court and give the seat to a supremacist. His name was Rutherford B. Hayes. They called it the Rutherford B. Hayes Compromise. And if you go back and read books like Eric Foner's book on Reconstruction and W.B. Du Bois's book on Black Reconstruction, you will find out that underneath his campaign was this theme: we got to make America great again. We've seen some things before. It happened in 1916 when Woodrow Wilson, who was somewhat good on labor issues, but he was a racist. He was the president of Princeton College. He'd been governor of New Jersey. In 1916, he played one of the most racist movements this country has ever produced, called Birth of a Nation. He played it in the Oval Office. And after he played that movie, he resegregated the national federal government. And all of this, he said, would make us a better country. Richard Nixon was elected at the end of the 1960s, when civil rights and the union movement had made great progress. Don't ever forget, the March on Washington wasn't a black march. It was a union march, a civil rights march. The march was for jobs and freedom. The union movement, the civil rights movement had connected together to pass the 64 Voting Rights Act and the 65 Voting Rights Act. And there were some people that were saying this is too much. And so Nixon runs to restore law and order. He has a guy by the name of Kevin Phillips design a campaign strategy. And the campaign strategy goes like this. We got to win all the southern states, and the only way we can do that is we got to split black and white people. We can't allow them to be voting together, because if they stay together, they'll elect too many progressive candidates. We've got to pit them against each other, but we've got to find a way to talk about race without sounding like it's racist. So we're going to talk about tax cuts and entitlement reforms and states' rights and forced busing. And we're going to turn the very people against each other that need to be with each other in order to produce a progressive, forward-moving nation. They call that the Southern strategy. And he said if we do it right, not only will we win in the South, but we'll win in some of the suburbs in the North, and we'll win in some of the places in the Midwest. And we can hold down the country. We can ensure an anti-union attitude in all of these southern states and many others for 50 years. But the only way we're going to do it is we got to keep black and white and brown people from coming together. They call it the Southern strategy, and their goal was to make the country great again. What we have seen here is not an anomaly. One writer, happens to be a white writer, said Trump ran his campaign sensing the feeling of dispossession and anxiety among millions of voters. He said that people needed to be afraid, very afraid, but didn't really offer any answers to their fears. He said, you got to be afraid because Obama is the boogeyman of a coming diversity that will undo the world you grew up knowing. And remember that famous statement, I and I alone can fix this. Philip Klinker, a political scientist at Hamilton College and an expert on this, looked at a lot of data, and he said in 2016, when you look at it, Trump did worse than Mitt Romney among voters with low and moderate levels of racial resentment. He went on to say the one question that proved that statisticians have found that would show you where people were going to vote was this one: is Barack Obama a Muslim? That question, however it was asked, 89% of the persons then voted a different way. He said that many of the supporters described African Americans as criminal, unintelligent, lazy, violent, more likely to believe people of color are taking white jobs, and a majority of them rating blacks as less evolved. This was what was going on in the minds. Another writer says the combination of economic anxiety, the insatiable greed of the Koch brothers and their ilk, and a barely sublimated racism against a black man serving our country as president set the stage for Trumpism. No Obama, no Trumpism, says, yes, Mr. Trump appropriated rightly much of Sanders' rhetoric about Wall Street bankers, billionaires, global economies, but he added his own form of Trumpism against immigrants, African Americans, Muslims, drug dealers, women. And history shows us that something is going on in this nation that's way bigger than one personality. This is a historical moment. This thing called Trumpism is merely a symptom. It's a symptom of a nation that hadn't come to grip fully with these issues of race and class. Now, my brothers and sisters, when I talk about race, I'm not talking about interpersonal things like you call someone the N-word or you don't sit beside somebody because they're a color. I'm talking about systemic racism. Like, for instance, did you know that the most unreported story of the entire election, you hear people trying to figure out whether or not Russia hacked the elections? Well, there's something that we know happened that's not being discussed. First of all, this is the first election that we went through in 52 years without the protection of the Voting Rights Act. Strom Thurmond, he's filibustered the Civil Rights Act of 1957 for 24 hours. Boehner, Ryan, McConnell, and others have filibustered fixing the Voting Rights Act for nearly 4 years. Now, why is the Voting Rights Act important? Because the Voting Rights Act helped not only African Americans, but white women. The Voting Rights Act allowed black and white people and Latinos to come together to elect progressive union-supporting, labor-supporting white politicians. And without the protections of the Voting Rights Act, you undermine a progressive agenda that supports the very causes I've listened for the last 2 hours you all talk about. Since 2010, 22 states in America, Brother President, have passed voter suppression law. 22 states. Those 22 states represent 254 electoral votes. They represent 44 senators and over 50% of the United States Congress. And they also represent the states where you have 57% of African American voters. This has produced, in this last election, before you ever get to Russia, there were 868 fewer election sites in black, brown, and poor white communities. So Trump won only by 80,000 votes in 3 states. There were hundreds of thousands of black, brown, and poor white voters. That's racism. And in those same states, those same 22 states, I wish I had my map with me. If you put a map up of all of the states that passed voter suppression laws, guess what you also have? The same states have anti-union laws. The same states have refused to raise the living wage. The same states have denied health care. The same states have the highest level of poverty. The same states where you have voter suppression targeted at minority and African American and Latino and white women voters are the same states that are regressive when it comes to the issues you care about, like Wheeler County, Georgia. The poorest county in America per capita is 65% white, 33% African American, but their representative there, who gets elected time and time again to Congress, votes against the very things that would help people in Wheeler County, like health care, like living wages, like unions. But he feeds them this division rooted in systemic racism. Many of the folk that get elected, 10 of the 12 poorest states in America are so-called red states, where politicians elect the very candidates that vote against the very things that uplift working poor people and the poor.
This has been Steel Revolution. You can follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/Steel Revolution Podcast. Questions or comments, email us steelrevolution105@gmail.com. Steel Revolution is a production of Steelworkers 105, Bettendorf, Iowa. Steel Revolution. The opinions expressed on this podcast are those of the individuals and do not reflect any official view of the United Steelworkers, USW Local 105, or its officers or sub-board members for officers.